Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dynasty Six Pack. Hope this is your favorite Dynasty show on the Fantasy Six Pack Network because, well, we'll be talking about some of our Dynasty favorites. So let's go through what I biasly say is my favorite theme song. Yes, here we are on episode 13 of the Dynasty Six Pack. My name is Kyle Senra, and I'm joined by my co-hosts. First, we have Rahul Natarajan. Rahul, how are you doing?
Doing good, Kyle. Good to see you. Good to see you, JB. I'm very excited for this one, which is probably the first words of my mouth before every episode. But this one, as y'all see, is a little bit of a change of pace. And I think just like one thing about fantasy football, dynasty football, like there's just like moments in each season that you play that like really stick in your mind. And going through some of these, I'm really excited to go through them and share them with you guys and the viewers. So doing well and excited for today's episode.
We are the guardians of our own memories, but of course, we have Jamie Perog, the Dynasty Guardian, part of the Guardians Fishbowl League and Scott Fishbowl 15. So first off, congrats on that, Jamie. I know you're a Clevelander, so you got the Cleveland team, and thanks for being part of our team here on Dynasty Six Pack.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. I'm just ready to talk all our favorites and just get into it. Some hot takes, some cold brews, and some championship winning moves.
Oh, that was a great rhyme. I got nothing better to say other than hello, everyone, which is actually a quote from Albert Merriquin. So, already off to the bad name start. That's not my favorite. Sorry. Hello, Albert. Hello, everyone. And if you want to join Albert in the live chat, you can go to the Fantasy Six Pack YouTube page. You can join us live there, and you can comment as we go through all of our favorite categories, and you can comment and chime in with your own. I guess other than the Fantasy Six Pack YouTube channel, there's also fantasy6pack.com. We have a Fantasy Six Pack Discord. So check out all the great branding stuff that we do at Fantasy Six Pack. I know, speaking of Scott Fishbowl stuff, I know Joe is usually involved in a lot of the Scott Fishbowl drafting. So a lot of people from Fantasy Six Pack. So it's a great time of year. Fantasy football is certainly very fun. And it's a great time to see anyone join the chat, including co-host on the show, for instance, like Jamie. He'll join the chat, but he'll also join us here and chime in again. It's we all love fantasy football. We all love Dynasty fantasy football specifically as well, which is why we do this show. We have a lot of fun doing it. So let's talk about some of our fun moments, maybe even some firsts, because our first topic of the night is our first ever Dynasty draft pick. So again, anyone in the chat, in the comments, chime in. If you're on YouTube watching the video after the fact too, you can leave some of your answers in the comments below, and we'll respond, react, and appreciate all the support we'll get through all those means. But first ever Dynasty draft pick, I would like to go chronologically with some of these as well when applicable. And by doing so, that leaves me going first here. We're going all the way back to 2015, technically my first Dynasty league. And now it's not Dynasty in the pure sense of how most conventional leagues are, but it was a league on Reality Sports Online. And in our second topic, I will talk further about that. But the setup on Reality Sports Online, in the startup year, if you choose to do a rookie draft, and frankly, because this is the setup every year, the rookie draft has to happen before the free agent auction. And so when we did that startup year, we did include the rookie draft, and you've got a blank roster, nothing at all. You start with a rookie draft. So starting right away with the rookies, and then later building the rest of your team, which is not the conventional way. I'm sure you guys will discuss startups, and most people's experience in startups is if there is a rookie draft that first year, it happens after the startup. But that's the unique feature of Reality Sports Online. So, weird name to say, but my first ever Dynasty draft pick was Nelson Aguilar, wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles, all the way back in 2015. And it wasn't very good. Even back then, my first Dynasty draft, I felt getting sniped. I think I was picking 109 or maybe 109, 108, somewhere there. I picked right before Devontae Parker. So upset. I really wanted Devontae Parker. Turns out maybe neither of those. We're great. So Nelson Aguilar, not a great player to. Yeah, that's my first pick. That's the solid foundation of the team. Nelson Aguilar. But there we go. That's my answer, and just be true and honest. And that's where we start from. And bit better names when we're talking about the startup drafts. And looking forward, Jamie, you're next up. Moving forward 5 years.
Yeah, mine was Patrick Mahomes. My first ever Dynasty League. I had the first pick, took Mahomes, and even 5 years later, he still holds value. You're taking him in a startup in the first round, right? He's considered a top 5, top 6 quarterback to most people. So yeah, I don't mind that. And I just remember when I first started Dynasty, I had no idea what it was until about 2018. And I started researching it. I'm like, this is awesome. This is what I wanted to do, because I remember I was in a draft back in the day. It was a redraft with my buddies, and we're at the bar doing our draft, and I'm drinking. And my last pick, it was Alshon Jeffrey's rookie year. And I come back and I'm like, give me Alshon Jeffrey. He didn't do nothing that year, right? And I'm thinking, like, why can't I keep this guy the following year? Because the following year he was awesome, right? So then I discovered Dynasty and just ran with it from there.
Kyle, you're on mute.
Oh, thank you. I was typing out tweets for the show. Didn't want to interfere with Jamie's great story there. But it's funny that you mentioned Alshon Jeffrey, because Nelson Aguilar was maybe on my team for a week. He was my first ever player, and then we did the rookie draft, and then we did the auction, I think all in the same weekend. And then like 2 days later, 3 days later, made a trade. Traded away Nelson Aguilar, and one of the players, I think the only player I got was Alshon Jeffrey. I had to sell a pick on top of Aguilar. The other manager was really tight for cash right after the auction, not even enough to make one pickup. So they really needed the cap space, and Alshon Jeffrey was in the free agent auction. It was a lot more expensive, cost control on the rookie contract. I was trying to go for it all the way. Like, year one, may as well start off trying to win. So Alshon Jeffrey in 2015 actually turned out to be a good trade, because I got several productive years from him. I mean, Nelson Aguilar is still in the league, but it's also just a 4-year rookie contract. I think through those first 4 years, he really didn't get much from Aguilar. So it was a happy ending there, at least. I mean, you got Mahomes, so you've got some. I mean, he wears number 15, right? So that feels like there's kind of destiny right now with your background.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I've never owned Nelson Aguilar in any type of league, redraft, best ball, dynasty.
That's probably best. Probably a good thing.
Sorry.
Okay,
do that one first, but god dang.
Yeah. So Todd Nollet. Sorry, I should just go with first names. Todd. My first was Antonio Brown in PPR Dynasty. Yeah, I mean, help me win a couple years before the perfect hit, and even then, he still had productive seasons after that. But yeah, like wide receiver 1 numbers year over year. That's pretty great. that's a great first pick. I mean, JB, you still have, I think, at least since 2020, Mahomes has had at least, obviously, it wasn't the 2019 season, but I think he had one other season where he was the QB1 overall. So you at least got that at that point. I guess you're asking what year as well.
Meat Gazer. I love this.
Dan Marino.
I want to know what year this
that.
was. Like, was it 1982? Because
I think his rookie season was 83. So if it was 82,
okay,
that would have been a Debbie league. So that would have been even more ahead of its time.
I was born in 82, so like.
Okay.
But no,
I think Marino was 83. I'm pretty sure that's the year he was drafted.
Dan Marino was my first ever jersey owned. It was the all teal. I think I was in 3rd grade at the time. One of my favorite players, like back when it was him. I know Joe Montana was another one of my favorites, Jerry Rice, but Dan Marino was my first ever jersey.
And then Albert mentioning Arian Foster, which is actually my first ever fantasy pick. I think it's 2012 in a redraft league. So it's funny how all of your answers seem to tie into everything I do, or just tie everything back to me. I'm just like that, self-obsessed. But we reminisced. We got to move forward a couple years from 2020, which was Jamie's first Dynasty draft, to you, Rahul, in 2022.
2022, the most recent, and if you guys have watched the show before or interacting with me on Twitter, you'll know that I'm pretty new, not just to fantasy football, but really the NFL as a whole. I don't think I watched my first NFL regular season game until 2021 when I moved into a house with 10 of my friends and they lumped me into this fantasy football league. I'm a diehard soccer guy. For a long time, there's only room for one football in my life, and now I've made room for two. Though, like I said last week, the other football is kind of on a hiatus. But 2022, my first Dynasty startup. And if I remember correctly, at the 108, I took Justin Jefferson. This is after I made a trade down from the 103 to the 108 and netted a future first. Next year's 103, which became Anthony Richardson. So I don't know how that trade ended up. But Justin Jefferson, this is right before his wide receiver one season, if I'm remembering correctly. So couldn't be happier with how that pick turned out. I end up winning so far my only dynasty championship with this team. Jefferson's still on the roster. Unfortunately, I don't have my Jefferson gritty mug here on my table in front of me, but he is one of my favorite players in the league. I mean, very recent, but one that I still remember very fondly.
All right, so those are some great players. Nelson Aguilar, not so much, but Mahomes and Jefferson. So great job, guys. Great picks. Getting into our second topic, which is our favorite fantasy football format. Jamie, Mr. Dynasty, Big Game James. What type of leagues are you big game hunting for?
So I love myself some best ball. I do hundreds of drafts a year, starting in like late February, right? And I'm always in a slow draft constantly. And then, like I said earlier, I discovered Dynasty like 5 years ago, and I fell in love with that. So I do a bunch of Dynasty and I do a bunch of best ball. So why not combine them and do Dynasty best ball leagues? I've been getting in a ton of those lately because it has all the fun of building a roster over the years, but you don't have to set a lineup. Like, you can still trade, you can still pick up people off waivers. You just don't need to set the lineup. It does that for you. So I have 27 to 30 active rosters that I need to set lineups for. So why not get into more Dynasty best balls, and just gives me something to do in the off season too. Trying to get trades for like values, and I have my active rosters, but with the best ball aspect to it, I think it just makes it so much more fun that you can do like hundreds of Dynasty best ball leagues too. You don't need to just do one or two. You can do hundreds of them.
Yeah.
So
Well, it seems like the appeal is to people who are trying to play volume, because how best ball differs from redraft is it's conventional redraft league. It's just a single season thing with typical best ball. But in addition to not changing lineups in single season best ball, it seems like you're also not making any roster moves at all. Whatever you draft, that's the team for the rest of the year. Whereas at least with Dynasty best ball, you're saying, Jimmy, the big difference there is that you are managing the roster. You're making adds and drops and trades and those fun aspects to Dynasty fantasy football.
Yep. Yeah.
So of course, this is a Dynasty Six Pack. You'd imagine the three co-hosts are going to go with some form of Dynasty in their favorite format. Jamie certainly did. Rahul, you're obviously going to go Dynasty as well, too, right here on Dynasty Six Pack. If I say Dynasty enough, will change your mind.
One would think, and I do want to caveat before I go to my answer. I think my favorite form of content, my favorite format to talk about is Dynasty. I think the Dynasty aspect of retaining your roster year to year, the trades, the rookie picks, I think that's infinitely more interesting the content for the format I'm going to share. And that's just your regular old redraft, especially the one, with your aforementioned buddies who roped you into this beautiful game. But just with redraft, like when you're in season, I think the level of competitiveness in a league really has outmatched like anything I've felt in a dynasty league or in any of these like large scale tournaments. And that's just because the simplest way to put it is like everyone is trying to win, whereas in your regular dynasty league, there might be anywhere from 4 to 5 teams that are either tanking, or realistically in a week-to-week matchup, your contender wagon is gonna run them over. A lot of my dynasty leagues in recent years have been like, just wait till week 15 for the playoffs to come in and to see if I get a bye or not. redraft, when that bye Mageddon hits, it's week 7, you're really in the thick of things. There's just like a certain kind of like love hate that I love of figuring out the solution, jamming a random Josh Reynolds into my lineup and he goes off for 2 touchdowns for the Lion when, everyone has gotten injured by week 2. I just think that's in season. There's a level of competitiveness that I do enjoy just a little bit more than Dynasty.
Ouch to all the injuries, but also ouch to not picking Dynasty. But no, hey, our favorites are our favorites. We're just.
Well, I want to ask you: do you prefer single quarterback? Do you prefer super flex?
Yeah.
Premiums. What do you like to incorporate into your redraft leagues?
My redraft leagues are painfully boring. They're all single quarterback. They have no sort of premium. All my leagues are half PPR. You guys are
say
gonna hate
touchdown only.
Yeah. Oh God, we're not in the Stone Ages, but I mean, you guys are gonna hate this. Like, all my leagues have defensive and kickers still. The redraft leagues only, not in Dynasty for sure. But
I don't mind that in redraft.
Yeah, it adds a little bit of variance that, again, love hate grew to love. But yeah, to answer your question, Jamie, very very cut and dry standard rules, and I play all my redraft leagues are. I exclusively play redraft with people that I know in real life, and while that may add like a level of competition, in a certain sense, it decreases maybe the discourse that we all are very into fantasy content. We consume like what people are putting out. We consume like one of like the sharpest minds of like in the industry are putting out like week to week, and perhaps
Like
that
Jamie.
level exactly like big game James right there, but maybe that level of nuance is lost. But I think that the competitiveness from just like my friends who probably haven't thought of fantasy football between January and time to draft just rolls up with like a wagon because I am fading this certain player, beyond ADP, and they just pick him up. Like, that's just the kind of random shit that can happen, I feel like.
Oh boy, all that research. It's great.
So I'm actually in the
research.
middle of a startup for a Dynasty Best Ball, and this is a funny story. So this guy in another league offered me Isaiah Davis in a 2026 fourth for Justin Fields, and I'm like, no, this dude's worth a first at least. All right. Now he's also in this startup, and we're in the 5th round. He just took Justin Fields in the 5th round of the startup. Cam Ward is still on the board, who goes 102. So what are you thinking? What is your thought process?
Well, I mean, he's trying to get Justin Fields cheap, and he couldn't, so he took him in the startup. I'm curious to your thought process. Now, what type of trade are you going to send him for Justin Fields now? As a told you so type thing.
Man, like 5 first?
Well, but in seriousness, like, could you sell a current startup pick for Fields, right? Because, like, man, you can sell him. You could take Isaiah Davis with this pick in the message. Just straight up a current pick for Fields, right? Like, it's like a round later or something. It's like, if you want Isaiah Davis, I'll even throw in a future 4th. Like, throw in that pick in a future 4th, and then see if it gets it done. And that, because I know you tend to be like overly aggressive with those offers. Send him something that he's not going to accept this, but like send him something at least close enough. Like, it's a single startup pick for a single startup pick, and you're giving up a future 4th. In theory, like, that's a bad process type thing to do, to give up an extra piece just to have the same number of startup picks, but it's also just a 4th, so you're probably not too worried about it if it gets you Fields and it lets you feel petty about it. I love Justin Fields. I had him in this RSO league, talked about from dating back to 2015, still in that Reality Sports Online league, and I don't have Fields in it. His rookie contract expired, and that's part of the process, right? Like, I guess I couldn't have extended him last year because I used my extension on Justin Jefferson in the offseason.
Makes sense.
So, and then I've just done it again, but with Nico Collins in the offseason. It's funny how we're going to talk about players Rahul likes. Just keep extending them. But I'm extending this conversation to say Reality Sports Online in the format that they represent is my favorite form of fantasy football. That is salary cap and contract. Part of it is the management of like being a GM is even put further than just a dynasty roster alone. You've got the component of the salary cap and having to be compliant with that. But mostly, my favorite way to draft is through auction. And I've done auction startups in a dynasty league before. The moment the startup's done, though, like, it's just a regular dynasty league, which is great. We love dynasty. That's why we do the show. But at the same time, reason I love salary cap contract is there's typically limits on contract length, so you can't really keep your entire team every year, especially. And that means there's always going to be players in the auction every year. Free agents available. So once you do your rookie draft, you do that free agent auction every single year. So I love doing auction drafts, and even though you're not doing a full startup, you still get that auction experience every single year in a salary cap contract league. So that's what I've come to realize. That's the reason I love the format the most. It's auction startup in a dynasty is great. I prefer that over a snake draft, but I just even prefer a salary cap contract league to just keep doing auctions every year. I love it.
Yeah, I love the auction aspect of fantasy football. I usually do about 1 to 2 auction drafts a year, but they're all redrafts. So actually, Fantasy Six Pack just came out with the auction draft strategies article today. So go check out the auction draft strategy article Steve Hungarter put out.
Interesting. Yeah. Steve likes a lot of great content. So that's great. Great that we have that at Fantasy Six Pack. Thank you, Jamie. Great plug. And I guess that's a great time in case anyone, if you want to chime in later, talk about your favorite fantasy football formats yourselves. I imagine most people's answer who are watching this is probably Dynasty, which is why they're watching Dynasty Six Pack. But we'll move on to another all-time favorite.
Yes.
All-time favorite question, but we're talking about the all-time favorite fantasy football players. I guess we'll go chronologically again. Jamie, that puts you up on the clock here. Who are you selecting?
So my first year ever playing fantasy football, it was 2004. I had the 101 in a redraft, and I had no clue what the heck this fantasy football thing was. All I knew was the Browns suck, and I needed something to enjoy football with, So my buddy talked me into doing this fantasy league, and my 101 pick in 2004 was LaDainian Tomlinson. This dude was a beast, right? I believe you could probably pull it up. Like, I was debating between him and Priest Holmes at the time. I went with Tomlinson. Ended up, I think, being the right pick. Kyle, I don't know if you have the stats, but Tomlinson was like one of the top scorers in that year. I won my championship. I won overall points. I think my second pick, remember back in the day, people were taking quarterbacks way too early. My second pick was a quarterback. It was McNabb, but I paired him with T.O. And you remember that year, they blew up, right? But yeah, that was awesome year for me. I think later in the draft, in the 5th or 6th round, I got Muhsin Muhammad, and Steve Smith got hurt. So Muhsin Muhammad was a top 10 overall scorer that year. Like, I think he was 1 or 2 with the receivers. So yeah, that's what won me my league. LaDainian Tomlinson was the foundation of it, and I'll never forget. He's going to be my top player, because if it wasn't for him, I might not be playing fantasy football today.
Funny, those immediate success stories, right? Like Rahul, you mentioned you won with Jefferson. Was it that first year that you won?
It was not actually that first year.
The year he finished wide receiver 1. That's hilarious, but that's weird with fantasy sometimes.
The year he actually got injured and missed most of the season was the 1-on-1. So
all right,
that is pretty funny.
Good job. At least and that's a great point to this. I'm looking up 2004 LaDainian Tomlinson versus Priest Holmes, and yeah, Jamie, looks like LT was the pick there.
I think Holmes might have got hurt.
And that was what I was about to get to. Priest Holmes had an amazing season for only having 8 games. He had 14 rushing touchdowns, another receiving touchdown. Had 892 yards in only 8 games. So he was on pace to have a tremendous season. So for those games you would have had with him, it would have been fantastic. He would have won you weeks. But Tomlinson only missed 1 game that year.
Yeah,
17 rushing touchdowns, another receiving, so 18 total scrimmage touchdowns, 1,300 rushing yards. 53 receptions for another 400 receiving yards. So.
And I want to say my second running back, because I waited a while. It was like Nick Goins from the Panthers. So that would not have helped me. I think he was.
What round was he Goins in?
I can't tell you, but I had a stacked team. My tight end was Gonzalez or Gates. I can't remember.
You didn't even have to answer that. It was just worth asking the question.
But that was a good one. Yeah.
All right. Guess we're going to the next one. And so technically I want to put two players, but I went with a similar player to Jamie, one of these dominant running backs. And really it feels like Christian McCaffrey is kind of like this recent generation's version of LaDainian Tomlinson. This just monster elite touchdown scorer to the year where he's hitting his ceiling. He is a true league winner. And I mean, we talked about that season for Tomlinson, that like famously that's not even his best season. I was looking through, like that was actually one of his
6.
Yeah, that was the 31 touchdown season. Like scoring 2 touchdowns a game, essentially. It's wild. McCaffrey hasn't quite done that, but he's had several of these 20 touchdown seasons. The reception record among running backs, especially in PPR leagues, he's been so fantastic. But as great as he's been, it's really just I do track all my teams and I track every single team that I've won with. And Christian McCaffrey and Mark Andrews are the 2 players I've won the most fantasy football championships with. So, including some dynasty leagues with both of them. I definitely remember a redraft team in 2019 with McCaffrey early, I think first round pick, Lamar Jackson later than he should have gone. In 2019, Lamar Jackson was amazing, that 1,000-yard rushing season. But entering that year, I remember he and Dak Prescott, I had so much of the 2 of them, and Dak, I think, also had a top 5 season. And like they were like QB 10, QB 12, like they were almost going outside the QB 1 range. So I just ended up accumulating so much of those 2. And Mark Andrews was just so cheap. It looked like the end of that rookie season with Jackson, Andrews was going to establish himself as that guy, like that he was going to be the main target. So I've been doing dynasty startup that year and got tight end premium, and I got Andrews in the 13th round. And I mean, he's still on my dynasty roster, and big reason he helped me win a couple titles in that league. So he like that sheer just volume of winning championships with both Mark Andrews and McCaffrey kind of right now makes them both my favorite fantasy football players. But it's more impressive to say McCaffrey. That's why I put him as the official one, because man, those seasons are incredible.
Well, even right now, CMC last year was going 101 in redrafts, right? We didn't know that he was going to be injured. They kind of kept a secret, right? Mm-hmm. But even right now, after a whole year, like he's still going in the first round in redrafts. I know earlier, about a few months ago, he was going mid-second, and now he's creeped up to the end of the first, sometimes mid-first. So he's still relevant.
Yeah. Andrew's a little less, but maybe he'll bounce back. But Christian McCaffrey will actually bounce over to you, Rahul, player that's already been mentioned, because I just talk so much. I'm going to eventually mention every single name, but go ahead. Who's your all-time favorite fantasy football player?
Yeah, well, if I had to put a least favorite fantasy football player, it is Mark Andrews after what he did to me last year. But let's stay with happy thoughts.
That's not his fault. That's not his fault. He got hit by a car.
Which, complete side note is he got hit by a car, but he also had tightrope surgery, and it was him, Tony Pollard, and I think Darnell Mooney's last season in the Bears. I think all of them had terrible first seasons after tightrope surgery. So can't think of any notable players this year yet, but something I'll keep in mind.
I mean, we've seen Darnell Mooney really bounce back, especially last year, and Pollard looked a little better like
certainly
seasons after that surgery. So
yeah. But favorite fantasy football player, I'll go one very different. And of course, guys, please do keep in mind I only have a small pool of years to select my player from. But that's going to be Nico Collins. And it obviously, like, favorite players come from great fantasy years. I reached 3 finals in 2023, the year Collins broke out. He was in all 3 of those teams, won 2 and lost 1 by, unfortunately, 1.5 points. But it goes even deeper than that. This is a guy I drafted on 3 out of 3 dynasty startups before he broke out. And at some point, even in my first 2 seasons, even the first one where, like I said, didn't know the NFL at all, Nico Collins was on my roster at some point in each of those seasons. And for me, he's just maybe the first, but certainly the greatest value rise, like in prospect drafting to where he currently is valued. And I think that's like what makes dynasty football so exciting. You're able to like project like these careers for these players. Like certainly I didn't think Nico Collins would be, first round redraft pick, like top 8 dynasty wide receiver. Now, I didn't have that in the range of outcomes, but seeing the way he broke out, ending up on those leading me really to championships. He was also on. I was in. Jamie, you'll probably know this, but Scott Fishbowl, there's like a mirror league, which is a
Yes.
best
Yeah.
ball league. So I was in that in 2023 and finished in the top 50 of the mirror league. Another team that had Nico Collins in, and aside from all of that, which is a fantastic player, just like that speed combination. And this is again from a guy where coming from a sport where the best player of all time is like a 5'7" Argentinian midget, right? To see like a size speed freak is like a completely different experience to what I expect from athletes. Nico Collins, like even going into the last season, I think Diggs got added. Dell had a breakout season. People were a little unsure, and I was pushing him up to like a 1-2 turn player. Got a little injured, maybe slow into the season, but I think like maybe this says more about myself and my egotistical tendencies, but how right I was on Nico Collins is, he is definitely my favorite fantasy football player and maybe favorite player in the NFL right now.
That's awesome. So Nico Collins, he didn't have a great first 2 seasons, right? Mm-hmm. But back in like 2021, 2020, when I first started, there wasn't these elite receivers coming in and producing right away. Mm-hmm. You had to wait 2 to 3 years for them. So Nico was on my radar because he very well compares to an Alshon Jeffrey, like I mentioned earlier. And he was a 3rd-round pick from Michigan, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The dude's athletic score was up there, like top. I believe his speed score was like one of the best in his class, maybe. I know he wasn't like that great at the 40, but his catch radius is what caught my eye. So I remember like when I first started playing Dynasty, it was like 2003 when he had his breakout year. I acquired a whole bunch of them because I'm like, well, this is a guy that's probably going to break out. So that's when I got him. And then he actually did break out, got over 1,000 yards, got over 1,000 yards again. And he's the number 1 receiver on his team. So I love that. Nico Collins is one of my favorite players right now. And I have him in my top 10, and I'm not going to put him out of my top 10 for the next, like, probably 3-4 years.
I definitely remember drafting Nico Collins in rookie draft. So I believed early on then, like, okay, it was I think a 3rd-round pick by the Texans. So I thought there was hope. There's enough hype as well. And I think I ended up in this. I think one of them was the salary cap contract league. So having him on a cheap rookie contract is great. And then traded for him in another one of those RSO leagues. And
there's people. Like there's people dropping Nico Collins in some leagues.
Yeah, I had that discipline to not. I don't think I did. I think part of it is, again, in an RSO league, those rookie contracts are so valuable that even if the player's not doing great, there's an incentive to keep them on the roster, just get that cheap contract to take up a roster spot. Saves you money in terms of how much money you have to spend per player contract left in the auction. Because one of the things about that auction is you do have to fill up your entire roster. So having cheap players fill up roster spots with rookie contracts is kind of a benefit. So I'd say I had the discipline to not draft Collins, but that's the format to kind of hold on to players, at least through their first 4 years with that, even if they're not incredibly productive. But he did have a decent second season. It was better than his rookie season, and it was enough.
I thought it was the same.
Hope, so
I thought it was pretty much the same. Exactly.
Like statistically wise, but I think he played a few less games in his second season. He probably got the same amount, like 600 yards or so, if I'm remembering correctly. But I mean,
I'll say I ended up trading for him a lot, just entering that 2023 season. So I actually got lucky with having some shares, having some exposure at a cheaper rate than what you're having to pay right now.
Like you're giving up 3rd-round picks for Nico Collins.
Yeah.
I mean, in his second year, he had a 19.1% target share. So maybe the production wasn't great, but he was earning targets, and at least, again, wasn't playing all the games. So that is.
And who was his quarterback? That's the thing. Like
that would have been Davis Mills.
It was Davis Mills.
No quarterback whatsoever. So
getting C.J. Stroud, we kind of maybe
definitely elevated him.
Breakout.
Yeah, that Ohio State to Michigan connection.
I mean, what I would love is to take like translatable lessons forward from Nico Collins, and I mean, it's only been what, 2 years now since his breakout, 2 draft cycles, and so far no one has matched up to that breakout. But again, only 3 years of Dynasty, 4 years.
I
of
would
fantasy
say from
football.
like where they were as like a rookie drafts, maybe Puka Nacua, who's in
Puka,
the same
yeah.
tier. But Puka like came immediately. Like week 1 got 15 targets, so there was no year 3 buying opportunity for him like there was with Nico Collins. So that type of flow breakout.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I'm the kind of guy, like, just one last sidetrack on this one and then one more on the next one. But I'm the kind of guy that's like, I've spent my whole life playing like franchise mode, like for soccer. Like that's like the format that, like, video game or whatever, that always gets me
Well, that's
going.
where you're talking about the Argentinian. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, so clearly, okay, you're talking about like the great one. You're talking about Angel Di Maria, right? Because he plays for Portuguese club. That's the only reason I'm saying.
No, I was talking about Messi himself. He's a 5'7".
Oh, Messi! I
Argentinian
forgot he
midget.
existed. Right? No.
Yeah.
I knew you were.
Yeah,
talking.
yeah.
I just wanted to. He's not even Portuguese, but he plays for a Portuguese club. I think he's on Benfica, so I just said that.
Oh, Di Maria, yeah, that's right. Yeah, but like franchise mode, it's all about when those computer regenerated players like come into the game and you like see them become like the best player in the world like 5 years down the line. That's what I felt with Nico Collins. That's why I love him.
Right. So, and you mentioned winning fantasy football championships, which is great. So, for folks in the comments, let us know who your all-time favorite players are. Also, let us know, brag about those championships, folks. If you want, comment what is your favorite fantasy football championship? Since it's year-based, I would like to go chronologically again, which means I start. Haha. I'm the old school guy with the gray in my beard, so I guess that's why I get to go first, right? But yeah, 2021, we're gonna go to not a salary cap contract league, but a dynasty league. But we did an auction startup, so that was you got to test my auction process outside of a salary cap contract format, just straight dynasty value, and you're not holding these players just for a certain time. The theory is, like in dynasty, you're drafting them to probably not having them on your team until they retire, just because we make way too many trades. So it's never the same. But it was still just a little bit out of the comfort zone of the contract setting. It was a 24-team league, and we had 2 copies of every player. So it was definitely a cool wrinkle. And it was essentially a combination of 2 patron groups where, frankly, there was so much crossover. It was like one giant patron group, Dynasty Trades HQ, Dynasty and Chill. So Shane, Manila, Scott, Connor. It was basically a mannequin chill league. Let's be real, like that's what it was. Like they were on each side, and we did do 2 divisions, and they were there's a manic side, a chill side. I think I was on the manic side. It wouldn't be me, right? I wouldn't be the manic. I'm chill. I talk way too much, but yeah. So there was a lot of like in addition to Scott and Shane, like there's Ruben Almada. There was another Portuguese guy. That's another thing Ruben and I have in common. There was a lot of great people in those community chats and in that league. Eric Vanek was in that league, and so there's a lot of great people. So it was quite a challenge with so many great minds. But I thought I executed my auction strategy pretty well. There's some players like my favorite guy, Mark Andrews. I let him go at too much of a value, and that was interesting with the 2 copies. And what ended up happening is the second copy of almost every player was cheaper than the first. So once that became apparent, you waited for the second player to come up, because the way it worked, you had to wait for the first player to be off the board before nominating the second copy. So you couldn't have both copies at the same time, and you can't have both copies on the same team. That was the only restriction. So outside of those restrictions, you had to wait. And it felt like because you were always waiting later on the second copy, there was less money available, so that those amounts didn't go so high. But I guess one of the things I was going to talk about, I didn't mention in the show sheet, was did you have a team MVP for these favorite fantasy teams, if you can remember? Because mine was Jonathan Taylor, who I think this was entering his second season, 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And it really paid off, because that was the RB1 year. So what a great year to get Jonathan Taylor, but you had to pay for him, because I believe his first copy was the most expensive running back, and then the second copy, which I got him for, was a little bit cheaper, but still I think the most expensive second copy. So definitely had to pay up, but it was worth the price because he finished as RB1. Kyler Murray in a super flex league. I got him again. The second copy a little bit cheaper than the first one, but those elite quarterbacks were all going for I think it was a $1,200 budget, and they were all going for like the Josh Allen copies were like 330, and I think I got Murray just shy of 300, which is a little more than I wanted to pay, but I also wanted one of those top. At the time it was top 6 quarterbacks, but there was 2 of them, so you could basically say it was top 12. I wanted one of them. I wanted at least one copy of one of those QBs. So Kyler Murray was 2021 was a decent year for him. He did get hurt at one point, but that wasn't a major injury. Like I think he might have missed a month and came back. So yeah, Jonathan Taylor, Kyler Murray led team. That was I think George Kittle at tight end, Tyreek Hill still on the Chiefs, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might have been the year where his yards went down. He wasn't quite as explosive, but I think he had a career high in catches that year. So still some productive seasons, and took that team all the way to the championship. And I didn't have the best regular season because Jonathan Taylor he kind of really earned that RB1 status kind of end of season in the fantasy football playoffs. Was quite not like he was pretty good, but like he really got his best performances late. So I ended up kind of not quite sneaking into the playoffs, but being a 5 or 6 seed in my division, had to play like the extra game, didn't get that first round bye, but then made it through because there was a 2 copy league. We had 4 weeks of playoffs, so literally won 4 playoff matchups to win the championship, and that was because it was a 24-team league with 2 copies. The payout was bigger than what it would normally be for a 12-team league, so that was nice. The financial incentive behind it, but it was kind of proof that okay, this auction strategy I have, it's not just for RSO. It's not just in the salary cap contract format. Like I can kind of take this to any auction, and if I pick the right players, I can help my team win. Obviously, then you're still having to bid on the right players, but I actually did a pretty good job. I think all on points per game basis, I think all 4 of those at one position were top 6 at their position. So including again RB1 Jonathan Taylor, which is why he was my MVP for that team. Jamie, that was the one thing I think you might have missed, but if you can, for these championship teams, you guys want to mention, if you can remember like a team MVP, you can share that here. Mine's Jonathan Taylor. I'll always love JT for that. I won quite a few leagues with him that year. He wasn't the next year, obviously he was going as like close to a 101, but a back end first that year, and not super expensive in the auction. Not like the elite receivers were going. Man, I remember Jamar Chase was like through the roof in terms of price. So that's my Dynasty championship in the Mannequin Chill League back in 2021. I guess both of you guys had 2023 teams. May as well get the redraft league out of the way, Rahul. Go ahead. Tell us about 2023.
2023 is right. I wish I had a league for 2022 I could share with y'all. When I started in 2021, I was just in one league with all of us lived together, and didn't know anything. Finished 7th in the regular season, so no playoffs. And we had a Sacco Bowl, and I ended up Sacco playoffs. Ended up being the Sacco, which is terrible to be in a situation like that, in a league like that. That's 2021. 2022, added a few leagues, but this was my main focus. Got all the way to the final. Week 17, I had Burrow and Chase down about 30 or so points, and Damar Hamlin had a heart attack on the field, and the game ended up being a split final. So it's obviously not the one I'm going to share because split finals are not championship wins. We'll go to 2023. Of course, the aforementioned Nico Collins breakout year, but this is a team that the MVP undoubtedly was CeeDee Lamb, who, though he wasn't the wide receiver 1 in points per game, that was Tyreek Hill in half PPR. CeeDee Lamb had an insane second half of the season, and that's kind of where like this team got built. Is I was kind of 4-3, like a middling team. I had Justin Fields as my quarterback that I drafted, and he got injured in the middle of the season. I had a week or 2 maybe of Brock Purdy, and I remember this very vividly. There's on Wednesday comes out that Purdy, having played terribly in the game, Shanahan's like, maybe he might have a concussion, we don't know yet. Immediately dropped Purdy and picked up Dak Prescott off the waivers, and I didn't lose a game the rest of the season as Dak went off, and obviously the Dak and CD stack was, even putting up like close to 60 points a week, even in half PPR, and that really carried me through to the championship. Nico Collins, obviously I mentioned, but the other real star of the team and the value pick was Raheem Mostert, a year that he tied the league lead for touchdowns. I think he had 20 rushing touchdowns that year. Another great memory just from that year is week 14. This is a league that had a payout for whoever finished first in the regular season, and it was in a situation where I just needed a win in week 14 to come first. I was losing heading into the fourth quarter of the game. Mostert, I can't remember who the Dolphins were playing. He hit a touchdown from the kickoff. The opposing team fumbled it on the one. Mostert came back on the field and scored another touchdown to get me the win that week, which is very exciting. Right before week 17, the final in that league, the night before, it comes out that Mostert is actually going to miss the next day's game, and I was in such a panic. I had no real RB2 on the team. The morning of, I picked up Khalil Herbert off free agency because I think it might have been Donta Foreman or something. Whoever the other running back was out, I thought, Herbert's going to get the volume, and he went off for 19 points that week. Was it Montgomery in 2023?
I guess maybe he would have been the Lions that year. You're right.
No, he's already yeah. It was like Herbert,
fine.
and they had like a whole like messy rotation, and he was really unusable for most of the season. And on the morning of the final, picked him up and jammed in my lineup, and we end up with a title. So that's one again. As I mentioned, redraft with very competitive in the sense of people that I know very well. It's a very satisfying win. Unfortunately, that's the only year that I've won titles. I mentioned the split finals from 2022, but that year will definitely live long in the memory for being my first real titles in fantasy football.
Well, more to come, and hopefully in 2020.
Hopefully.
Jamie, you're also going with the glorious 2023 victory. And you're on mute. So glorious, you're speechless.
So after listening to Kyle's championship, like mine doesn't even matter because you being in a league with all those great minds, right? You had Scott Connor, you had Shane Manila. I'm actually good friends with Shane. I know Scott. And 2 years ago, they were talking about this league on air. And I'm like, this is the first time I ever heard of a copy league. I was like, this is interesting. I didn't know you were in that. And you actually won it?
You're one, baby.
So, congrats, dude. That is awesome, man. But so my favorite championship, I've had so many, dude. Like, I can't even tell you how many championships I've won. Probably 70, 80, including best balls and redrafts. But, like, one sticks out because Jeff Lambert asked, hey, I'm looking for a startup draft to talk about, and we're going to do a live on-air breakdown of it. So I was like, I'm in the middle of one. It's almost done. So I sent it to them. They're breaking it down on air. I have, I believe, the 12th pick. So the last pick, back-to-back picks. And I remember getting a message from Ryan Foss, Jeff's co-host. And he's like, you're crushing this draft. Like, this isn't even fair. And I was like, okay, I'm liking it. And I won the year of the startup. And last year, I came in second. I lost in the championship. But this year, I'm going to win again. So I just love the fact that, like, Ryan messaged me in the middle of the draft saying, like, you're crushing this, like, as he's reviewing it online. So that sticks out to me as, like, one of my favorite championships. And I had Lamar Jackson as, like, my quarterback. I think I got Kenneth Walker in, like, the 6th round, which was extreme value. I don't know what these people were doing. Like,
everyone was scared of Charbonnet, I imagine.
Yeah. So, and then also, I don't normally do this, but I have 2 of the same receivers on the same team with AJ Brown and Devonta Smith.
I mean, those two condense all the targets to them.
Exactly.
Right? Those are the two to have.
Yep.
And I got AJ Brown and Jahan Dotson. That's probably not so good.
So, like, George Kittle is my tight end, and it's a 0.05 or a 0.75 tight end premium. So that was awesome. Dak is my second quarterback. So I guess Lamar would be my MVP, right? But didn't he get hurt? Because I think I had Lamar and Scott Fishbowl that year, and I believe he got hurt at the end of the year, didn't he?
Yeah, he might have missed the fantasy football playoffs.
He definitely had a few years, because I remember starting Tyler Huntley in a fantasy championship one of those years.
Hey, at least it made it to the championship. I just started Tyler Huntley in a third place game because I didn't make it to the championship.
So
he was with the Dolphins.
So the funny part is the guy that I faced in 2023 in the championship, his name's Kenny, and he won last year against me in the championship. So I came in second, he came in first. The first year I came in first, he came in second. Like this league kind of holds to my heart because like I run this Facebook group called Fantasy Football Discussion, and Dynasty Six Pack is now in charge of it. And this is all league members from the Fantasy Football Discussion group that the Fantasy Six Pack runs. And
good plug for Fantasy Six Pack. You've been killing it with the ads today for the promotion. Joe loved that there, Jamie.
So yeah, I mean,
someone else who apparently loves to see Jamie is Steve D'Angelo saying, "Yo, Jamie, good to finally see you."
Steve's my dude, man. I'll stay up in the middle of the night at like 4 a.m. because he does late podcasts during the season. I have to be up at 6, and I'm still listening to him at like 3 a.m. I have to be up in 3 hours, but I love his content. So go check that out. FF Face Off.
I thought he was with the FF Face Off. Thank you, Jamie, for confirming that. Thanks for the stories, guys. So yeah, we've got. So who did you settle on as your MVP then? I guess if Lamar.
I guess it would have to be Lamar or AJ Brown. I mean, my team was just so good. Maybe Kittle.
Was that was? I mean, Brown. I mean, points per game wise, Brown is just smashed every time he's with the Eagles. So I think Brown's probably a fair one. You said yours was CeeDee Lamb, Rahul?
CeeDee Lamb.
Or Mostert, I guess, right?
Mostert, yeah.
Is the value, I suppose.
Mostert, yeah. Of course, Nico Collins, but Mostert, I guess for the stories, I'll go with him. We gave him a medal, even though he didn't play Week 17. We gave him a medal.
Yeah, I mean, how many touchdowns helped you get to Week 17? That's part of it, and yeah, mine was JT, which, funny enough, I'm pretty sure I had Jonathan Taylor in Scott Fishbowl 13, so funny enough to bring him up. He didn't do so well in 2013. I think I had him last year too, actually. I like Jonathan Taylor. At least he won me the one title. But yes, so talking about our favorites of a lot of different topics. We had 6 topics tonight. We've gone through 4 of them. Time to hit our 5th one, which is most rostered rookies. So we're going away from the favorites. Now this is the actual stuff from this year. So I want 2025 rookies. And who do you guys have the most of so far? And we have, I guess, because Jamie and I have 2 players that are tied. We have 5 different names. And I feel like, I'll just ask this right now. Were any of these shares acquired within the 3rd round?
Nope.
Yeah, I thought so. So this is all 4th round or FAB. So it's going to be, part of it was, okay, like, what did you have to do to acquire these? Nothing, just, they're the guys that fell late enough and you take them. It feels like there's not much going to be more, but let's talk about them anyway. So Rahul, we'll start with you because you only have one, and it's wide receiver. Actually, I'll let you introduce which wide receiver you have the most of so far as a rookie. And it's funny because I feel like we haven't really talked about many of these rookies at all in our vast talk of rookie talk that just seemed to last forever. So it's fun.
I guess we haven't really broached like the sleeper topic, and I mean, Torrey Horton.
Now it's the last episode of May. May is our draft season. This is maybe the best way to end May, I suppose, with these sleepers.
Very true, especially because, like you had just brought up, a lot of these players are going to be available after your drafts to attack with FAB, and Torrey Horton's one that I've gotten 100% of my leagues so far. Wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks. He played for Colorado. Did he play out Colorado? Colorado State is where we played. Very athletic, fast receiver, and just generally, I mean, look at the positions of the guys. Both of you have chosen. Wide receiver is not a position I try to target with late round capital or really with FAB. It's like maybe a prospect that I like, or just because the chances for a late round wide receiver to hit are so much lower than the running back position or tight end, that, you know, that's more of a factor of the position being devalued and pushed down the board. Torrey Horton, though, I feel like a scheme fit that has a chance to work out, and that's more because he's going to be like the big athletic, like deep threat on the Seahawks, a team where the two leading receivers plausibly are going to be Jackson Smith and Jigba, and whatever Cooper Kupp has left in the tank, both primarily slot players, not really known for their deep speed, and that's where Horton is one I could definitely see having his moments. Now, question is whether he becomes good enough to, whether he commands enough volume to be someone you put in lineup leagues, like Jamie, for your Dynasty Best Ball leagues. I can see Torrey Horton being a great target because you don't have to pick the week that he catches that random like 50-yard touchdown. But aside from, and weirdly enough, Elijah Arroyo is a tight end, but he's one that the coaching staff of the Seahawks have talked about as someone who could do like sort of X wide receiver stuff down the field. I think Torrey Horton's really the only guy. He has to just beat out MVS, who has stuck around the NFL for years and years. He does a role very well, and so it's not a given. But
despite the fact that he seems to have struggles catching the ball, he seems to catch on with a bunch of teams. There's no Patrick bias there whatsoever. I actually love MVS.
There's something that MVS, there's something that MVS just seems to do that gets him on the field. I mean, he even had a random stretch of like 3 touchdowns in 3 weeks towards the end of last season. But Torrey Horton could be the guy that sends MVS to the retirement home. So that is a receiver that I've taken with Fab in every single one, because like I said, I don't really like to spend later rookie picks on wide receivers, but this is one that I've targeted in every league that I can.
I mean, he's a 5th round pick in the NFL draft, so there's some people that, like, to their process, he's probably off their board. I'm kind of probably the same.
Yeah,
like, at that point.
Understandably, yeah.
And I mean, it sounds like you were too, but once it gets to spending Fab dollars, then you take upside swings. And now I think you mentioned something about the format, right? And like the comment about Jamie's best ball leagues, those would be the type of formats where maybe you do actually tend to draft more wide receivers.
Mm-hmm. You never have to. You never have to be right about where Spike Week is coming. So it's perfect.
Just the year, right? Like, they're on my roster this year, and they'll spike eventually, or not. They're not good. Maybe they won't. But yeah, so I think to that point, in that you didn't even spend draft picks on it. Maybe you actually should have gone with him last. Should have got more context. Didn't plan this well. That's okay. Troy Horton, Rahul's most rostered rookie in 2025 so far. Now, I've got 2 running backs that in some cases have been 4th round picks. One case in particular was Fab, and I'll get to that. But it's 2 running backs. So we've got LaQuint Allen from the Jacksonville Jaguars, Ollie Gordon from the Miami Dolphins.
Yes, love them both.
Yeah, and I think as 4th round picks in a couple of cases with Gordon, and I can think of one of them was like the 409 in a 10-team league, so the second last pick. And I also had the 410, so I effectively had the last 2 picks. And I went, I think Gordon and Giddens, DJ Giddens. Jonathan Taylor's back. I might just have to apparently bring up Jonathan Taylor needlessly all the time, but it's just like those types of process. Okay, when it gets to a certain point in the 4th round, that tier of receivers gone. I'll take swings at this running back tier. I think Ollie Gordon has a chance on the Dolphins to potentially see work even this year. And he was someone that was kind of highly touted, had the better 2023 season in college than 2024. So while he was drafted pretty late in the NFL draft, maybe his talent exceeds where his draft capital went. His potential is higher than that. So taking the shot again on the 4th round, one particular league, he made it actually through waivers. And in this league, we have $1,000 Fab budget for the off season, and then it resets in season. So I just went on a spending spree. I got Ollie Gordon for $403 Fab dollars. So we're talking about 40% of the budget. A little high. The next highest was 202. So I essentially doubled the amount, but I guaranteed to get Gordon, and I still had enough money to get Rashad Smith, Damian Martinez, Khalil Mullins. And look at that. Who did I get for $2 and no one else bid on him? LaQuint Allen. So
love it.
I built a ton of depth on the team. Essentially just filled my whole taxi squad. Right now, my entire taxi squad is just running backs. It's those guys. And well, actually, maybe this transitions perfectly to Jamie. Taj Brooks I also picked up. I think Taj Brooks I drafted. He was the one dude I drafted there in the 4th round. And I got Ollie Gordon was higher in my rankings, but this is a team with Chase Brown, and I didn't have any Taj Brooks yet. So sitting at I think it was like the 410. I said, you know what? I'll go against my rankings because I have enough Ollie Gordon, and I'll get Taj Brooks. And guess what? Ollie Gordon's still my most rostered player. So even passing up on him in the draft there, I still got him anyway. So that worked out pretty well, I think. But go ahead and let us know about a player I just mentioned. So I revealed the secret.
Oh, no. Taj Brooks is an awesome player to get in your rookie draft in the 4th round or off waivers. I was at the 312 in the Going for Two staff league, and I'm thinking, like, dude, I can get Taj Brooks. He's my most valued player. But then I was also going to go Gadsden, who's my other most rostered player, along with Taj Brooks. And it's I believe it's a 0.75 tight end premium. So I'm like, I should go Gaston here. But I was like, I'm going to go with the catching Canadian, Alec Manor, because why not? Whatever. But I also had the 4-9. I got Gaston. I also had the 412. And I'm like, okay, so last pick of the draft, I was going to take Taj Brooks. But I'm like, I'll get him off waivers, right? So I took Will Howard with my last pick of the draft, super flex, and I hope no one in this league is listening, but I'm putting $117 out of $200 to get Taj Brooks off waivers.
No, risky revealing it. Risky.
No, I don't care.
And that's the goodness of Jamie's heart, donating to charities like Fancy Cares, which we get to Scott Fishbowl with that great background there, but also giving the listeners his completely, I guess it's complete transparent process on exactly everything.
I am putting over 50% of my fab.
There we go. That's what I would have said.
On Taj Brooks. And I'm putting over 50% of my fab on Gadsden because I have Gadsden in 13 leagues right now. At the time of when we put it in the show sheet, I had them both at 12. I had 12 shares of Brooks, 12 shares of Gadsden. So I drafted Gadsden with one of my last picks, and I was going to take Brooks with one of my last picks, but I figured since it was super flex, people would go after Will Howard more. So I was like, well, I'll just take Will Howard and put all my fab on Brooks because Woody Marks is still available. So I have a feeling people are going to go after him. I just think Taj
That's
Brooks.
True. I've rarely seen Woody Marks hit fab. He's typically going in the 4th round.
But I like
to a certain extent, Jamie. I've also rarely seen Taj Brooks go undrafted.
Exactly. So I like Taj Brooks because you have Chase Brown. He was a later round draft pick, right? 3rd or 4th draft capital. It took him a year just to kind of
that first year he didn't do much behind Mixon. I mean, he was he turned out to be the main backup and still did very little because Mixon. So essentially, the Bengals were maybe smart, like, well, we're not re-signing him. Let's get every ounce of football out of him to take him money.
What's to say Taj Brooks can't split 50-50 or like at least 40-60, like 40% of snaps with Chase Brown, and then what if Chase Brown
overtakes Zach Moss?
Zach Moss was
he has to accomplish that. But I feel confident that he can at least compete there to be the main back.
Yeah, so I love getting Taj Brooks. I target him. I would get him. I was thinking about taking him at the 312, but now I'm going to get him with fab. Give me that all day.
I think even the appeal here with all these running backs is, what if Chase Brown gets hurt? What if Travis Etienne, and I guess there's a lot of. Let's say Devon Achane gets hurt. Right? That's how these running backs really quickly ascend in value. And even if you don't use them for the points, like the resale value, you're getting them. You trade them in season after an injury. They're going for a lot more than a 4th. They might be able to get a second.
Yeah. So in this league, I have 4 spots available. So I put $117 on Brooks and I put $70 on Marks, and the rest of it was what $13 left. I put on Savion Williams because that's your Green Bay Packers, man.
Kyle loves him.
I love Savion.
The moves the Packers made this year.
But then again, I also put $0 on Ricky White because you mentioned Horton, right? At the
Mhm.
Seattle. Who's the best guy to take over that Metcalf role? I believe Ricky White has that ability, and I can get him for $0. LaQuint Allen
We'll
is my
have to
other
see.
guy. Yeah, LaQuint Allen, like one of your guys, he's next on my list that I'm going to get for $0.
All right, well, Jamie calling the shots here, and we're calling out again our favorite sleepers, 4th-round picks, fab picks here, and very transparently, clearly our favorite since we keep acquiring them. Again, most roster rookies. So just to repeat through that,
I have a
Just not
detour.
repeating through it.
Yeah, sorry.
Go
I
ahead.
haven't. If guys, we're making fantastic time today, and I know we might want to try and curtail a little bit, but I have a question that came up from as you guys are speaking in acquiring these running backs is using the taxi squad for rookie running backs, because this is something that I've kind of had a position where I never want to put a rookie running back on my taxi squad because
Yeah.
I always want to be in a position where I'm able to make that, vacate that spot if needed, either to put in my lineup or to flip away in a trade. So sometimes you might not have enough rookies to like fill out the taxi squad otherwise, but I just wanted to gauge kind of both of your opinions on this, because it's something that I really never see mentioned, but I never want to have a running back on my taxi squad.
Yeah. So what I like to do is I like to put tight ends
Yeah.
and
Perfect.
receivers on my taxi squad, but there are exceptions to the rule. So this year, I'm putting Jaquez Hunter on my taxi squad.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Because next year, which Kyron Williams doesn't have a contract, so that's a big red flag. Who's it going to be? Is it Corum? Is it Jaquez? We don't know. So I'm going to stash Jaquez Hunter, who I'm getting in the 4th round or off waivers for free. And I'll wait a year and just find out. But other than that, no, I really don't put running backs on taxi squads.
And I did it in this league just because the only other rookie I had this year was Elijah Arroyo. And I feel like if I'm making the bet, I think I'll bet on him getting quicker usage, even though he's a tight end, as opposed to any of those, like picking the right running back out of that group. And I mean, if I've got to drop some other player to activate a guy and I'm killing a taxi squad spot for the year, so be it. I'll do that in case any of them elevate value. And then I guess that's the risk you're taking, right? That's kind of, I guess,
exactly,
I assume what you want to avoid, but
yeah, it's all situational.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could have used Arroyo, but again, that means I've got to before the season pick which of these running backs gets that bump, and just keep Arroyo and hope that he gets immediate usage, and that he's the guy I want to put in my lineup first anyway. And
then another one is LaQuint Allen. I'm grabbing him and I'm stashing him because the backfield is muddy right now. They have,
final year of contract for Etienne.
Yeah, Etienne could be gone. Then they drafted Tootin. They drafted LaQuint Allen, but that's a new regime that drafted these guys. So who's that other guy in the backfield?
Well, Tank Bigsby from a couple years ago.
Whatever. We don't
now I think he's in year 3, right? He's already halfway through his rookie.
So after next year, like who they could just get rid of him and then go with LaQuint.
He's so cheap. Like if they really want to remove him from the room, like someone might even trade for him next offseason if they really want to clear the runway for these other guys.
Yeah. Like I put Ty Chandler from a few years ago. I think he was behind Cook and Madison, and so completely agree with those examples that you pointed out. It's like,
what did you call him? Cook and
Battison, Alexander Battison.
Oh, no, I coined that name. That's my name.
I know.
That's why I want to bring it up to make you smile. But certainly, I think we're going to make Joe smile because we're at trade of the week and we're just over an hour. So we're going to get to our 6th topic here on Dynasty Six Pack, fantasy football fun. It is the trade of the week and combines a few things. It's combining Jamie's favorite format because this is a 12-team best ball league, start 8, Superflex, PPR. But it also combines a few.
Is there a tight end premium or no?
No,
okay.
Just PPR. But it also, the other aspect that's combined here is Rahul's first Dynasty player. On one side, we have Justin Jefferson and Devontae Adams. On the other side, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jaden Reed, and a 26th first.
Oh,
I want to gather because I see Rahul's face, and I find this one very tough to judge which side I want. So.
I think I didn't read well enough because I read start 8 and I excluded best ball for my first read. And that has a lot to do with Jaden Reed, who is perfect for best ball. It's just the kind of guy you never know when you're going to be able to plug him into the lineup. And that brings it a lot closer because otherwise in a start 8, I would have preferred the Jefferson and Devontae Adams side. Adams is someone that I'm having as a borderline wide receiver 1 for the 2025 season. I'm really excited about his role with the Rams this year. But then, and especially the start 8 when only, the first like top 20 wide receivers even matter. You probably want to have like multiple wide receivers in like 1 to 15 really to have a chance to win. Jaden Reed, though, when Jaden Reed did well, he was like the wide receiver 1 on the week. There was never any like middling wide receiver 2 weeks from Jaden Reed, which is very replaceable. So in this format,
touchdowns early, like through the first month of the season, he was a top 10 wide receiver, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, he was the dynasty darling. I was seeing some egregious rankings of Jaden Reed on Twitter. Understandable. But to get back to the question, this is a really tough trade to break down. But I think with the youth of the two pieces on the Jaden Reed side, of course, the other one is Amon-Ra, probably the higher valued one of those two. But getting the first on top, it's going to depend. Like late first makes it even more tough to decide. But in best ball, I'm completely fine acquiring Jaden Reed on the right team. So I'll take the side with the first attached.
I think that was very great, kind of like well said type thing in terms of like, Reed's value would go up in theory for the best ball. I don't like. I was kind of just looking at my rankings today, and I think I have him. I think it's something like 7 spots higher than Adams in Dynasty rankings.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I view Jefferson to Brown, I don't know that the difference, especially in best ball, where maybe Amon-Ra, maybe one of the worst, better in lineup type guys because he's still isn't. But those spike weeks could still come in. I mean, in a lineup league, you're just going to play Jefferson and Amon-Ra in your lineup every week anyway. I'd imagine best ball, it's start 8, so maybe there's weeks that they don't. If those weeks ever come, like the difference between Jefferson and Amon-Ra might not be as magnified in best ball.
But it's also PPR. Just for Amon-Ra's sake, like PPR is definitely the best format to own.
That's true. So
I'll
also say I don't know that they're that different. And then I think of the trade as Reed in a first for Adams. Looking at my dynasty rankings, I see Reed ahead of Adams. It makes me really want that. Like I'll take Reed in the first to downgrade from Jefferson to Amon-Ra, who I think I look back to our rankings, like we all had Amon-Ra as a top 5, top 6 dynasty receiver.
Yeah.
So I'm also fine with that side, thinking that the randomness of best ball makes it so I want the 3 assets and you give me that extra first.
Yeah.
The points wise might not be that different. And again, if you want to upgrade Reed to a better player, maybe that first is the vehicle to do that for something better than Adams. I imagine something with longer term value. So I think the only hesitation that it's only start 8 is just give me the 2 best scorers, and that probably is Jefferson, and it might even be Adams, but I think he and Amon will be pretty close. But certainly expect Adams to this year outscore Reed. So for someone who's trying to win now, I can definitely understand why you'd want Jefferson and Adams. But I think there's a lot more teams that could still benefit. Even a contending team could, in theory, still benefit from the Reed side. That's since I've seen the trade, and this was I actually should say where this trade came from. Sorry, this is a Bo knows on the Dynasty Six Pack Discord.
I know Bo. Okay. Bo knows best.
Yeah. Well, this is one of the best trades I saw in the Dynasty Six Pack or Fantasy Six Pack.
I just want to plug this Bo knows spice. So if you ever need some spice in your life, go to.
Sorry, it's not Bo. It's Bruno. This isn't Bo.
I was gonna. Okay, never mind.
No, sorry, Bruno. My bad. Bruno knows. Apparently, Kyle does not know how to read, but Bruno knows submitted this trade. in the Fantasy Six Pack Discord. It was in the Dynasty channel specifically. Again, because it was best ball, because it had Jefferson, it fit so many things in the theme of the episode. We chose to choose that one. So, Jamie, you're our best ball guy. Are the non-best ball guys have kind of given their opinions? Are we completely out of left field?
No, man, it's always tough. Like I would want to see the whole roster because the start 8 throws me off. Like if you're in a complete rebuild, yes, I do want the Amon-Ra, Reed, and first next year because it's going to be a late first. But then you also have Jefferson, who's also going to be elite for a long time. But you also have an older piece in Adams. So, like on a win now team, yes, I do want the Jefferson and Adams side. This is so tough because it's so even to me to where I think both sides could win in this situation because the guy getting Jefferson is going to win this year. But the rebuild team also has Reed, St. Brown, and that late first. So I would try to counter instead of the late first next year. I would try to get someone this year in that 110 to 112 range.
That's not bad. Fortunately for Bruno, the trade was completed. Bruno sent this to us after he completed it and wanted to know, like, after the trade. So
I think you did a good job. I don't know which side you're on, but
Bruno did
good.
get Amon-Ra, and I'm looking at his team.
I like it.
Start 8. Kyler Murray is the QB1, and pick your QB2 between Aaron Rodgers or Dylan Gabriel.
No, you have no QB2.
Knowing the team context, I like this. Getting the extra first.
Yeah.
Younger at receiver.
Yeah.
I'm looking at like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jawan Jennings, Jaden Reed. Like a decent enough receiver room. The running backs are Breece Hall and Jordan Mason and Quinshon Judkins. So I feel like if you're gonna do this path and make this trade, if you're listening, Bruno, you probably I think the next step is to trade away Breece Hall.
Yep.
No, wait. Your next step is to get a quarterback.
So you're still thinking compete now, right? And maybe getting this 26 first. Are you? Because Bruno has like the team's own first, no second though. You sell both first to go get a real good QB, or just try and buy a QB for one of those firsts.
Well,
no second.
It depends what you want to do because next year there's like 5 quarterbacks coming out that could be first round talents.
Maybe hold those picks. Maybe you try and patchwork cheap a quarterback for a year or something. Like it's best ball, right? That's the format where you can go to get some just like ugly feeling quarterbacks that you never want to hit submit in your lineup, but it's best ball. If they spike, great. And if they don't, and you end up having a positional player in the super flex spot because your quarterback plays so poorly that 8 players outscore him, well then so be it. You're not playing him that week either, right? Like he's not hitting your lineup. So maybe this is the format where you do try and find a cheap quarterback. Is that like using the 26th third?
Go get Geno Smith and try to get him. Oh no, because if you're rebuilding,
Justin Fields would be perfect in
Fields
this kind of format.
It's that stack with Breece Hall, but I mean, according to you, Jamie, he's going to cost a first, right? So you will.
Well, no. According to me, or according to the guy that sent me that trade, you need to give up the 101 plus.
Does he have Isaiah Davis? He does. Bruno has Isaiah Davis. Get it done. No, at least you got the Breece Hall handcuffs. I don't know if handcuffs are as important in best ball when I suppose you kind of do because right that handcuff player might actually score the week that the running back gets hurt. Like you'd never play Isaiah Davis the week Breece Hall gets hurt.
Let's stop talking about.
So then Davis. Come on, Davis would if Breece Hall gets hurt, Davis that's like the week he spikes because.
No, so go offer whoever has Justin Fields. Go offer a second round pick for him.
I'm sorry, on the bench. Like I shouldn't say. That's not. Sorry, I have to zoom in. It's not Jordan Mason. It's Joe Mixon. So Joe Mixon, Breece Hall, Tony Pollard, Quinshon Judkins. So the running back. But actually, to that point, the running back room might be good enough that you might be able to sell. Like, is Breece Hall actually the best vehicle to go get a quarterback?
I mean,
Brees Hall and
if you
maybe
could get like,
Brees Hall and
Jake,
Chris Olave, who's also on the team. Could you use both of those guys to find a way to get a QB? Maybe throw in a third if you need to.
I mean, the way I would like to go is get an older running back who could put up Brees Hall plus numbers. Like I'm talking like Jacobs, Chase Brown, Derrick Henry, and see what quarterback you could attach to that running back as
Tear
like the
down from
plus.
Brees Hall, right? Like Brees
Yeah.
Hall to get an older guy. Like trade
Tear
Brees
down
Hall to
value
get
wise, yeah, but not necessarily production wise. In at least in the next year.
sell Brees Hall to get like David Montgomery or something.
No.
Is that too low?
It,
Oh, yeah,
well, then
Jamie's-
it depends.
Jamie's
Then it
Hall's
on
depends on
only
the
the-
like
piece.
23
Jam-
years old, 24 years old, man. Like he's still young. He's still gonna have like 4 years of production, and he's
Ooh.
like a top 7 value at running back
Could you
right
use
now.
Olave alone? Olave and a pick to get a QB. Olave
I'm not
and one
selling
of those 26
Olave
first.
low because Olave's value is so low right now, so low that you need to hold him for it to rise
I agree
up.
with that.
So I guess maybe back to the point, you'd rather just like not spend huge on a quarterback. Maybe you go get a Geno Smith, even if you're in theory wanting to get a younger QB at some point. You put together an older QB this year, and then like you said, if you hold your own first, maybe
If you're
that's
trying to
how you get a
compete,
QB next year.
yeah. If you're trying to compete, go get like a Geno Smith. I think he's only like what 30.
You try and is this time to go buy Michael Penix, where he's lower in value in theory?
No, Penix is higher. I've seen Penix go above JJ McCarthy, which is insane. Like considering
You buy
Darnold,
Stafford real cheap.
Okay, so someone asked me about Stafford and Geno today. Brittany, she said, someone's trying to get Stafford for a third. And I'm like,
No way.
She's like, okay, he's trying to get Geno for a second. I'm like, no way. I'm like, why don't you package Geno and Stafford and go get like Marvin Harrison?
Oof.
But like add something on top of it, you know?
I thought you were gonna say it first.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean,
Because people are so low on Marv right now. He's
I mean, this
15,
might be a bit of a buy
16.
window for him. That's a good point. It's funny because my quarterback to go buy is already in the team in terms of Kyler Murray from our buys and sells episode last week, and we did talk a lot about Brees Hall last week. So maybe Jamie's right. Maybe you run this running back room back, and you hope that between those 4 guys, like 3 of them seeing your lineup every week, and you try and find a way to make a trade. I mean, maybe getting Jaden Reed on this team, the best use of him is actually just sell him for a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like maybe those are the ways to go buy a QB. And then
So
like
what is
Geno?
What is
Russell
Jaden
Wilson?
Reed?
Could you go buy Russell Wilson really cheap? In the
Yes,
thought
you
that like
can.
the weeks where he
But
doesn't
why-
start, he's not seeing your lineup anyway. So you're
But
not.
why would you want to draft Russell Wilson? Because like
Well, just because he's so much cheap. Like, could you go get him for a third? Can you like is that a guy you can offer a third for? He might get.
I'd rather have my third than Russell Wilson.
To be fair, like
Well,
Russell Wilson
Jamie,
had
and someone thinking like that might be the way that you get a quarterback, right? Like, because I mean, suddenly if you add Wilson to this team, it at least gives you a potential second starter. Unless Dylan Gabriel, unless the Browns like Dylan Gabriel as much as I do, he's probably not getting many starts.
I mean, Russell Wilson had
Rodgers.
quite a few startable weeks, 25, 28,
Actually, I just thought of
18.7.
Do you go try and trade for Kirk Cousins before the Steelers do? Where he's so low in value. Like that, like if you can get Wilson or Cousins for a third, maybe that's the vehicle. You keep those 226 firsts, and that's how you get that patchwork QB2. And like let's say it's Cousins, you're basically making the bet that the Steelers either sign Rodgers or trade for Cousins, and you have that starter. So it's maybe easier to stomach trading for Russ because he's had the Achilles injury from Cousins a couple of years ago, but also we're pretty confident he's going to start games at least from the very start of the season. I don't know. That's kind of how I'm thinking. Like if you really wanted to, in best ball, just like get these quarterbacks that you don't feel great about starting every week, but the best ball format allows you to access those spike weeks. I feel like Russell Wilson or Kirk Cousins get starts. Those would be the 2 I would try to do for really cheap, where they're perceived as not necessarily starters the whole year. Like Geno might be a little more expensive because he's a little older, but it's expected he's going to start the whole year for the Raiders.
So I'm looking at my ranking values. What if you offered Jaden Reed and a 4th for Justin Fields? Jaden Reed and a fourth for Jackson Dart. Jaden Reed and a fourth for Anthony Richardson. Jaden Reed for Sam Darnold.
I was about to say Sam Darnold, even though that sickens me. Yeah, I like
yes.
the Fields one the most. Like I would start with Fields and kind of work my way down.
Yeah, because like I have it ranked like, you got JJ McCarthy. Yeah, he's worth more. Like JJ is worth like Reed and a late second, early third, maybe to me. But then you have like the Fields with the uncertainty. Jackson Dart with uncertainty, Richardson with uncertainty, but they all have upside. Then Darnold, Darnold sucks, but he's a starter.
In start 8, it's so valuable to get that quarterback that even though you traded for Jaden Reed just now in this trade, maybe it is like, again, flipping him right now for a quarterback might be the best way to actualize this value. What's the point of getting this extra piece? You bank that first for Adams and you use the Reed to get you a quarterback. That actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I like that.
Try it.
Yeah. Try and get Justin Fields. Darnold if you can. And Richardson actually probably is great in best ball. Again, those spike week potential. Yeah, so those are some great future trades after this trade of the week, which again I think is a pretty fair close trade. I mean, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, where you do the gritty a little bit, you got binoculars on, your eyes pop out in terms of just like, man, these guys getting traded. And yeah, it in the chat in the Discord, it seemed like it was pretty even. Like Bruno Knows asked, W or L, like win or loss, and I think the first comment was Mark. It was Mark Strasburg. He says, "Is T an option? Is tie?" Like essentially, this feels pretty fair. I think Joe Bond chimed in as well. It seemed like, again, I don't know. I'm pretty torn, but I think I'm leaning towards that Amon-Ra St. Brown side. I think we all ended up there. Jamie, is that fair?
Yeah, I'd lean that way.
Okay,
but I do I like both sides.
Bruno did sell Justin Jefferson for this, it seems. So I guess Bruno knows something here for this trade. But you all know where to find us every Wednesday here on the Fantasy Six Pack Network. We are actually, we'll keep the trade up. Why not? People can see the trade throughout the outro. As we are, probably our shortest episode to date now. Another great episode here. We had a lot of great chats. People chiming in the comments. Steve, Albert, Meat Gazer, Todd. I should have gone Meat Gazer first. Sorry, Todd, that you had to follow that up. But how are we going to follow up buys and sells? Well, one of our favorite things to talk about is Dynasty Fantasy Football. So we got to talk about a lot of our favorite topics. We had 6 topics tonight here on Dynasty Six Pack. Kyle Senra at Senra Says, Rahul's at Small Talk FF, and Jamie's at Jamie Perog. Follow us on Twitter. Again, subscribe to wherever you listen to the podcast for those on audio. Also subscribe here on YouTube, the Fantasy Six Pack YouTube channel. And fantasy6pack.com. Tons of great articles coming out. Jamie mentioned auction draft article from Steve. Our team draft guides for each team that's starting to come out. I've already finished writing my first one. I'll be writing my second one. I'm responsible for the AFC South. So I will be writing about Anthony Richardson. Oh boy. And hey, Jonathan Taylor. That's great. That's the next guy.
And Nico Collins. Don't forget Nico.
Well, that is the first article that I wrote. So yes, Nico.
You already got Nico in there.
Yeah, no, got that done. He's not the primary guy in the title, but he's in the title. He definitely deserves that.
He deserves it.
And I also want to thank everyone in the chat. We got Steve, D'Angelo, my boy, Albert. You're always awesome.
Albert's
BB Meat Gazer.
Thanks
for joining. Todd, awesome. Like this guy named Jamie Perog. Who the hell is that guy?
Never seen him before. Is that guy?
Yeah, he's probably too busy making trades to come here and comment every single week. But yeah, appreciate everyone who is here every single week. Jamie, what a very heartfelt goodbye. Rahul, anything you want to say before we leave?
I don't know if I can top all of those. I don't know if I'll have a chance to say BB Meat Gazer like both of you did, but thanks guys for sneaky. But thanks guys, great episode. Definitely great to go down memory lane because at the end of the day, fantasy football is fun. Sports are fun. They're a great escape, into all the stuff that goes on in life, and that's why we love it so much for amongst many other reasons. So great episode, guys, and excited for the next one. And thanks for watching.
And we learn from our mistakes, so we have to bring up the past.
guess I learned a lot then. But I guess I'll learn to do this outro properly. But all to say, glad that we at least got to also talk about one rookie topic here with our most rostered rookies this year. Kind of nice way to end rookie month and really June. We're going to start talking a lot about startup drafts, strategies, whether it's the serpentine variety with snake drafts or auctions. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun all through the month of June, really the summer here on Dynasty Six Pack. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you next week.